This video summarizes our paper, a framework for sensorless tissue motion tracking in robotic endomicroscopy scanning. Probe-based confocal laser endomicroscopy is an optical biopsy technique that enables non-invasive, real-time, in vivo and in situ tissue characterization. A probe-based confocal laser endomicroscope consists of a laser scanning unit, a probe, and a screen. The probe comprises a miniature flexible bundle of fibers, and is connected to the laser scanning unit. Optimal image acquisition requires the probe to be maintained perpendicularly to the tissue surface, and within a working distance from it. The quality of endomicroscopy images is heavily dependent on the positioning of the probe with respect to the tissue surface. More specifically, if probe tissue distance becomes even a little bit larger than the probe's working distance, then image sharpness drops quickly, and severely. This paper's first contribution is the design of a robotic endomicroscopy tool. The tool houses a tube that is coaxially aligned with the fiber bundle, and coupled to it in the front. This over tube is also coupled to a load cell. The load cell is, in turn, mounted on the axis of a miniature positioning system. Thus, the motion of the positioning system is transferred to the over tube, and the probe that moves with it. Finally, the load cell measures force in the axial direction through the over tube. In our experiments, the robotic tool was clamped above the tissue sample, and a mechanical translation stage was used to synthesize 1-degree tissue motion. The framework aims to control the probe's motion, so that the probe tissue distance remains within the probe's working distance. The second contribution of this work is the introduction of a sensorless framework for tissue motion tracking. An important part of the framework's design is quantifying image quality. To this end, the evolution of multiple blur-based non-reference imaging criteria was evaluated while the probe approaches different types of tissue. The Creed-Roffey blur metric was deemed most appropriate for the proposed framework. Physiological deformations exhibit quasi-periodicity. The proposed framework is based on the idea that periodic functions can be approximated by a simple piecewise linear function. The framework can learn and reproduce this function online, with the help of the Creed-Roffey blur metric. The whole pipeline is shown here. More details about each step can be found in the paper. Here, one can see the proposed framework being applied to porcine fat tissue. It is worth noticing how the framework eventually learns an approximation of the tissue's movement, and takes corrective steps to compensate for the errors it made in the prediction of the movement's period.